Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. From July 4th through August 26th, if you use this promo code, you will automatically be entered into a drawing to win a set of all 4 Commander 2019 decks. Also, there is another way to enter where no purchase is necessary. See the description below for full details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. And today we're going to check out all aspects of the secondary market. I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit quieter this week. Things are calm compared to how they've been over the last few months. I wouldn't call them calm overall, though. Commander 2019 previews did occur this week, and there are definitely some impacts from those reveals. But there's also a few cards that are just sort of creeping up, didn't quite make the list. I expect to see more cards being influenced by the reveals probably in next week's video and the week after. Alright, without any further ado, let's get right into it. We'll begin, as we always do, with the top 5 standard legal cards that have lost value this week, but I do have 2 honorable mentions. The first one is Dire Fleet Daredevil, down $1.03 to $3.59. This is a card that is approaching rotation, and you're going to see that not only this week, but in weeks to come. A lot of cards that are going to be rotating out this fall, they have been already dropping in value. Some people think that once the new set comes out in the fall and rotation occurs, all the cards magically decline in value. Not really, they kind of drop slowly throughout the summer. Sometimes in October, cards that see play in other places are actually back on the rise, so you do want to make sure you pick them up at the right time. Now, that's not the case with this card. It doesn't do a whole lot outside of standard, but it has been a good standard card. Still sees a little bit of standard play in the current meta. You'll find this in mono red aggro, typically out of the sideboard nowadays. Our second honorable mention is Crucible of Worlds from Magic 2019, down $1.26 to $25.42. So this is going to rotate out too, but it really hasn't done anything in standard in its time in the format. So outside of standard though, you know what this card does. It's still a big deal. Usually you'll find it as a 1 of or 2 of between the main and the side, but it's in a lot of different decks. In Modern, it's in Tron builds, War of Invention builds, and more. Sees a little legacy and vintage play too. Also a great commander card, great casual card. Number 5, Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, of course, still here. Down $1.29 to $15.15. So this card is another one that will be rotating out very soon. And last season it looked pretty good in Grixis control decks. This season that deck has kind of disappeared from the meta. Now outside of standard there was a modern Grixis control deck trying to run this. That's kind of fallen off too. So if you're a commander player or casual player that has been waiting to pick up this card, wait a little bit longer. It's going to lose more value. Number 4, Leyline of the Void. 2 copies here. Guild Pack down $1.62 to $40.47. Magic 2011 down $1.81 to $27. This card was recently reprinted as a rare from Core Set 2020, so there's a lot of copies getting out there in the marketplace right now, which is softening up the price of these older copies. Now, even as recent as last week, we saw some of these still going up in value. Why was that? Well, even though all these extra copies are getting out there, and even though the standard players don't even care that much because it's not seeing a whole lot of standard play or anything like that, the amount of copies needed right now in Modern is just really, really high. You saw this if you watched Mythic Championship 4. Hogak decks right now are everywhere. Phoenix builds are everywhere. Non-Hogak Dredge decks are still doing very well too. This is a critical sideboard card. Many Modern decks have just simply given up and started main decking this card. As time goes on, more Core Set 2020 copies will get out there, and these will soften up some more. Also, there's a good chance that Hogak or something else from that deck will get banned. That might quell a little bit of the demand for this card, but it's still going to be a huge Modern card. Also sees a little vintage play. Chandra Awakened Inferno comes in at number 3. This goes down $1.97 to $19.97. You know, this card is losing some value, but it is performing very well. In Standard right now, you can find this in Jeskai Super Friends and Temur Elementals. Mardu Midrange will usually run this in the sideboard as well. I'm kind of interested in what it's doing in Modern right now. You're going to find this in the sideboards in Mono Red Prison. Sometimes this shows up in Gruul Land Destruction. Is It War of Invention has been using this in the sideboard, so has Breach Shift and some other decks too. Even with all that play, because of the Core Set 2020 packs being opened right now, this does soften up this week. Number 2, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, down $2.72 to $26.99. This is from Dominaria, so you know what that means. It's going to be rotating out this fall, which is why it has softened up this much. Now, it's still playing a role in Standard. You're going to find this in Esper Tempo as well as Jeskai Super Friends. In Modern, it still looks great in control builds and other decks there. I do expect it to lose more value, but don't expect it to lose all its value. This card is just too good in Modern for it to completely bottom out. Number 1 is Leyline of Sanctity. This is the one from Modern Masters 2015. It goes down $2.92 to $11.37. This is another card that was reprinted as a rare in Core Set 2020, which is why this copy is going down this much this week. It's not really seeing much standard play, maybe a little more than Leyline of the Void is right now, but it does show up in Modern sideboards to defend against burn, discard effects, mill effects, and it does see a little legacy play and vintage play too. Okay, on to our top 4 Core Set 2020 cards not in booster packs that have gained value this week. These are found in the Spellslinger Starter Kit, Planeswalker decks, and the Welcome decks, which they give out to new players for free at game stores. Now, all these cards are technically legal. None of them that we're going to talk about today are seeing standard play, though. The reason some of them have high price points is just because there's not a lot of people breaking those decks apart and selling them as singles online. Because of that, the few people that are, they've been setting high prices. Don't pay these prices. If you want one of these cards to collect or to put into a casual build, check your local game stores. You're going to find better deals there, or just buy the complete product. I know a lot of people just don't want to do that. They just want 1 or 2 cards, but in some cases, there's just more value to be had picking up the complete product. Give the cards away that you don't want to a friend, maybe teach someone to play Magic, but don't pay these prices. Okay, there are 3 going down in value, which we're going to look at quickly first before we get to the top 4. Imperial Outrider is the first one. This is a brand new card. You can find 1 copy in the Spellslinger Starter Kit. It goes down $1.28 to $2.47 this week. The second card is also found in the Spellslinger Starter Kit, just 1 copy, Immortal Phoenix. It goes down $1.42 to $5.22. This one's actually a rare, and it was printed as a foil in the gift pack last year, but this is the first printing outside of that. Exact same story here, Angelic Guardian. This was a foil card in the gift pack last year. This year, you can find 1 copy in the Spellslinger Starter Kit in non-foil. It goes down $1.51 to $6.35. Okay, here's the ones going up in value. Number 4, Canopy Spider, goes up 30 cents to $2.18. You can find 2 copies of this in the green Welcome deck. Number 3, Thirsting Bloodlord, up 33 cents to $2.79. You can find 3 copies of this in the Sorin Planeswalker deck. Now, this one is actually a sought-after casual card. I would throw this in a Vampire Commander deck and be very happy with it, as a matter of fact. Number 2, Rubble Belt Recluse, goes up $1.47 to $3.88. You can find 1 copy of this in the red Welcome deck. Number 1, again, Prized Unicorn. You can find 1 copy of this in the green Welcome deck. It goes up $1.56, also to $3.88. Okay, on to the top 5 standard legal cards that have gained value this week, but I do have 3 honorable mentions. The first one is Twilight Prophet, up 29 cents to $8.34. The reason I wanted to point it out is even though rotation is coming for this card, it's still going up by almost 30 cents. Why is that? Well, this sees play in some Orzhov Vampire builds, but I think this is being driven more by Commander players picking up Vampires. And Commander 2019 is introducing a really interesting new Vampire. This is Anji Falconwrath. Now, this comes in the Merciless Rage deck, which is actually a Madness deck, not a Vampire Tribal deck, but it does have people thinking about Vampire Tribal and maybe ways to enhance their current builds in Commander. Second honorable mention is a huge shock land. This card's been on our list a lot recently. It's Breeding Pool. Gatecrash goes up 30 cents to $16.49. Dissension goes up 32 cents to $23.99. You're going to find this in a lot of important standard decks right now. Bant Scapeshift, Bant Ramp, Simic Nexus, and more. In Modern, it's in some big decks too, like Neobrand and Infect, as well as Snowshift and others. And our third one is Scapeshift from Magic 2019, another card closing in on rotation. This goes up 38 cents to $19.49. Again, not a huge climb, but why is this so rotation proof? Well, it's in a very popular standard deck right now. I just mentioned it, the Bant Scapeshift deck. There's also some other variations of that deck out there. And of course, this is a big Modern card. This is in the Titan Shift decks and the Breach variations of them. Snowshift plays this too. It will lose a little value between now and rotation, but this will be another card that will retain much of its value because of the Modern play it sees. Number 5 is Mystic Forge, up 39 cents to $2.78. Now, this is a Core Set 2020 rare. Tons of packs are being opened right now. How is this fighting that and still going up 39 cents? Well, a lot of people are playing this not in Standard, but actually in Modern, Legacy, and Vintage. In Modern, it's showing up in Tron sideboards and Infinity sideboards now. There's also some Mystic Forge combo decks starting to creep into the format. They haven't proven themselves yet, but MTG Goldfish did do an Against the Odds video and article on one of those decks last week, and that did get a lot of attention on it. Outside of Modern, you're going to find this in Legacy Bomberman. It looks really good there, actually. Vintage Shops decks are also using this. And there is another reason this could be going up. That is Commander 2019, and this card is from the Mystic Intellect deck, Elsha of the Infinite. One thing you could do with this is use this with Mystic Forge, so if there is a card on top of your deck that you cannot play with this or Mystic Forge, you could go ahead and tap Mystic Forge, take a point of damage, and exile that top card, and try to move forward into something that maybe you can play. Remember, Mystic Forge lets you play an artifact or colorless non-land card from the top of your deck, so they do complement each other very well. Number 4 is Assassin's Trophy at 49 cents to 1301. This is in standard, it's not rotating out this fall, but it's not seeing a ton of standard play. It shows up here or there. The reason it's going up in value is modern. It's in some huge decks there. Hogak builds, Jund, non-Hogak dredge decks, The Rock, and others. Legacy, sometimes you find it in Hogak there or in Reanimator out of the sideboard. Vintage Sultai midrange decks even run this in the main nowadays. Number 3 is Blood Crypt, the original one though from Dissension. It goes up 68 cents to 24.28. This is in Jund Dinosaurs right now in standard. In modern though, it's in huge decks. Hogak builds, Jund, non-Hogak dredge, and more. Number 2 is another Dissension Shockland. It's Hallowed Fountain, up 85 cents to 24.99. Now this is seeing a lot of standard play, Bant Scape Shift, Esper Tempo, Bant Ramp, and more. Also modern Azorius Control, Jeskai Control, Urzethopter Sword, and others. Number 1, Arclight Phoenix goes up 99 cents to 22.33. You don't see as many Izzet Phoenix decks right now in standard, but they can still put up a good result. They're still out there. But modern is where this card has really shined. Izzet Phoenix, Gruul Phoenix, Mono Red Phoenix, all of those decks have been doing very well recently, and I don't really see that changing. Especially if there is a banning that hits the Hogak deck again. Phoenix decks could get that much better, assuming whatever they ban from Hogak also doesn't hit this deck. Ultimately, it really does say something about the power of the card, considering they pushed out a lot of copies with the Arcane Tempo Challenger deck not that long ago. Even with those additional copies, here we are talking about this card passing $22 again. Okay, let's move on to Modern with the top 5 Modern legal cards that have lost value this week, but I do have one honorable mention. It is Ranger, Captain of Eos. It goes down 237 to 1221. This card is looking great right now in Modern. It's in Death Shadow builds, Collected Company builds, Mono White Blank. The reason it's losing value, though, is there are a lot of Modern Horizons packs being open currently. Boxes are still out there at a very reasonable price, so some cards that you would expect to not be losing value actually are. Number 5 is Flusterstorm from Commander down 271 to 2520. So this isn't technically in Modern Horizons booster packs, but it was the Buy a Box promo, making it Modern legal. With that being said, you're not seeing a ton of play with this in Modern. Sometimes it does show up in Affinity sideboards, but it is still a big card in sideboards and Legacy as well as Vintage. Even so, though, with all the extra copies out there, this is losing value. Number 4 is Misty Rainforest, down 415 to 6569. This is the one from Zendikar. It wasn't too long ago that all of these fetch lands were super hot. They were all inflating very quickly. So we have seen a little bit of cooling down, a little bit of a retraction, not too out of the ordinary. Percentage play on this might be down a little right now in the meta. Still seeing enough Modern play to be super relevant, don't get me wrong. Infect decks and many others will run this. Legacy and Vintage decks are going to run this too, but it does soften up a little bit this week. Number 3, Jace the Mind Sculptor from Masters 25. It goes down 275 this week to 129.83. And this card keeps going up and down. The other variations are doing the same thing. What is happening here? Well, it still sees a ton of play. Modern Control builds. Also now it shows up sometimes in Snowshift decks there. Legacy is Azorius Stoneblade, Miracles, Grixis Control, 4-color Leovold. Vintage players want this, Commander players want this, Oathbreaker players want this, so what's the deal? It feels like $130 is the ceiling for this card for now. Sometimes the original Worldwake one has a little more leeway to go higher, but I do think it's a hard pill to swallow to purchase a non-vintage, like non-reserve list Magic card for over $130, unless you really need it for a deck right away. Number 2 is Horizon Canopy from Future Sight. It goes down $6 to $71.80. That's a pretty big drop this week. This card has been softer ever since the other Horizon or Canopy lands, whichever you prefer, were printed in Modern Horizons. I do think in some cases decks just have a little more flexibility if they want this type of thing. They can at times anyway just use one of the newly printed lands. Now with that being said, this is still a critical card in a lot of Modern decks. Humans, Hardened Scales, Hexproof, Banned Spirits, and more, they want this card. This sees Legacy play too. Also remember, this original copy has unique art, it has the unique card frame. This will always be a card collectors will go after. It might be soft a little bit right now, but I would expect in the long term that this card will eventually rebound. Number 1, Sliver Legion comes down $686 to $106.50. Wow, okay, it's still expensive. Now, of course, Modern Horizons happened not too long ago. They printed the first Sliver. Sliver Lords immediately started to dry up in the marketplace. Some of it was players building Commander or casual decks. Some of it was speculators picking up the cards. At this point, this card is inflated so quickly, you know it's ready to lose some value, and that's what you're seeing this week. Okay, let's move on to the top 5 modern legal cards that have gained value this week. I do have one honorable mention, though. This is Chalice of the Void from Modern Masters. It goes up $1.92 to $72.55. Now, this is a card that has seen a lot of play recently, partially pushed because of Karn the Great Creator. Decks that Karn is good in also happen to be decks that want Chalice of the Void. So you're going to find this in Tron builds, Eldrazi builds, and more in Modern. In Legacy, Mono Red Prison, 4-color loam, and in Vintage, this is in Shops builds. Number 5, Una, Queen of the Fae from Shadowmoor. It goes up $2.19 to $11.54. So by now you know the story behind this. A few weeks back we found out about Throne of Eldraine, the fall set. Wizards made some fancy collateral with the pre-release dates, and in the background we saw fairies. The market went crazy. Now since then, Mark Rosewater has tried to kind of give more information by saying that a lot of people are jumping to conclusions as to the number of fairies and the importance of fairies in the set, but they will be there. Also, he mentioned that they are doing something different with the colors for fairies, so that will be interesting to see. But regardless of all that, some of the key fairy cards have gotten hot. This is one of them. This card also gets better in Commander because of the recent unbanning of Painter's Servant. Number 4, Talisman of Dominance. It goes up $2.17 to $6.04. Okay, here's the trick. This is actually the one from archenemy Nicol Bolas, and I do think it just dried up in the marketplace. Now, it sees a little modern play in certain Tron builds, but I don't really think that's what's causing this to increase. I don't feel like this is an orchestrated buyout. I just think there's not a lot of copies out there in the marketplace currently, and that's why you're seeing the price rise. Number 3 is Liliana of the Veil from Innistrad. This goes up $2.20 to $85. Now, this card has been soft ever since the Ultimate Masters reprinting, but a lot of time has passed now, and it is starting to rebound because it sees a lot of important play in Modern. Jund, The Rock, Death Shadow builds, and more. Also in Legacy, you'll find this in 4-color loam and other decks there too. Number 2 is Send Triplets, up $2.43 to $39.80. This is a big Commander card. A lot of players like to build around this. Some people were holding out to see if it was going to show up in Commander 2019. Of course, that wasn't the case, and this week you're seeing the price go up. Number 1, Knucklebone Witch. This goes up $3.06 to $8.96. Now, this is a Lorwyn rare, so I'm going to use my one per video here. Yes, cards from this time period do have a little bit of a lower print run compared to Modern Era Magic cards. So when something drives attention to them, they tend to get spiky. What caused this one? Modern Horizons, as well as Core Set 2020, reprinted a few key Goblin cards, making them Modern legal for the first time. Modern Horizons also gave us some really cool new Goblins. That actually did make Modern Goblins playable, and in some cases put up a few good results. We'll have to see what happens long term with these decks. Right now they are being overshadowed by other things, like Hogak, for example. But I do think there's potential for this deck, especially as we get more Goblins in the future. Outside of Modern, Commander players are picking this up too. There's a resurgence of Goblin decks there, again because of those Modern Horizons Goblins. Okay, time for the Vintage Spotlight. This is where we talk about cards that see play in Legacy, Vintage, 93, 94, or sometimes just cards that are important to collectors. First, we have Mana Drain. It goes up $2.02 to $188. This is the original one from Legends. This sees a little Vintage play, but this is another card that a lot of Commander players want to grab. Gaia's Cradle, up $2.48 this week to $352.48. The card is from Urza Saga. This is on the reserve list, but it did get a printing as a Judge Foil before they closed that loophole. This is in Legacy Maverick and Elves decks, also a great Commander card. Next we have Strip Mine from Antiquities. Now there's different versions of this card in Antiquities. The one that's going up this week is the one that you see pictured on the screen here. This one's called the Even Horizon variant. There's a little more cloud coverage in the background, making the horizon look more even. This goes up $13.95 this week to $89.86. This is another card that sees play in Vintage, but also Commander. Mox Ruby from Unlimited, of course, this is on the reserve list. It goes up $524.98 this week to $2,274.97. Mostly because there's just not a lot of copies of this for sale right now, and there are more high-grade copies out there than usual. Okay, time for the Commander Spotlights, and one thing I gotta point out about Commander before we get into these cards. Commander 2019 is bringing a lot of attention to various cards. You're going to see some of that today, but I have seen a lot of cards creeping up just a little bit this week that could take off in the coming days, maybe even hours. So stay really close to the market. If you're looking to pick up upgrades for the 2019 decks, with some exceptions of cards that already spiked really heavily, I would think about making those purchases sooner than later. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this week's Commander Spotlight. Again, I'm going to go pretty quick here. There's a lot of cards to cover, so I'll give you the main reason they're moving. First, we have Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre. This is the original one from Rise of the Eldrazi. It goes up $1.03 to $26.98. Now, we know this is a good commander card in like colorless builds, but this did get a command zone mention this week, which brought some more attention to it. Although, I don't know if it really needed the extra attention, because there is a card from Commander 2019 that could be pushing this too. That's Atla Palani Nest Tender. Keep an eye on high casting cost, very powerful creatures like Ulamog. This might be just the first to move up. Next, we have Winds of Change. This is the one from Portal. It goes up $1.11 to $16.89. For the most part, this is just moving because it's really getting harder and harder to find these Portal cards in good condition. Sylvan Library. This is the one from Eternal Masters. It goes up $1.15 to $43.99. This sees a ton of legacy play. Temur Delver, 4-color Loam, lands, and more. Also sees a little vintage play, but Commander players also truly appreciate this card. Vampiric Tutor. This is the one from Visions. It goes up $1.16 to $66.49. So these tutors are always going to continue to creep up in price. We see them on the list all the time. This week, it's this one's turn to go up. However, maybe it's not a coincidence that this one happens to be in black, because last week we found out about Carrick, Son of Yawgmoth. So, Vampiric Tutor has been used a lot recently in those Yawgmoth commander builds anyway. Here's another card that either could slide into that, or you could completely build around. I do think you're going to see a lot of mono-black commander decks using this as their commander soon. Mana Echoes. This goes up $1.17 to $34.99. This is a card that we've seen a lot recently. We've talked about it because of its interaction with Tribal. This is good with Slivers. Slivers have been hot recently. Good with Elementals. They've been hot recently too, so on and so forth. However, one of the new commander decks, Primal Genesis, is a Populate deck, which would also work well with this. Lotus Cobra from Iconic Masters goes up $1.28 to $9.30 this week. This card has been hot recently because of Yarok the Desecrated and also Omnith Locus of the Royal. But now there's another card coming that is going to interact very favorably with this. That's Chulane Teller of Tales. This is not coming from Commander 2019 though. This is going to be in one of the Throne of Eldraine Brawl decks. Copies will also be found in collector boosters. But I don't want to leave out Commander 2019. There's another card here that could work well with Lotus Cobra, and that's Scare Tiller. Scare Tiller actually comes in all 4 of the decks, and maybe this isn't really pushing the price of Lotus Cobra over the other cards I mentioned, but it's worth noting. Devastation, another Portal card here. This goes up $1.33 to $24.69. So again, I think it's just moving because high-grade copies are drying up in the marketplace, but there is an interaction in Commander 2019 that is noteworthy. Gerard Weatherlight Hero from the Mystic Intellect deck. So if I use Devastation with this in play, all the creatures are gone, all the lands are gone, my creatures come back. My opponent may still have other things on the battlefield, but they don't have any creatures and they don't have any lands to react. Could be a pretty good combo. Chrome Mox from Meriden goes up $1.39 to $39.57. This sees a lot of legacy play. Mono Red Prison, Storm, Reanimate, Mono Red Eldrazi, and more. But this is also a good commander card too. Bitter Blossom from Ultimate Masters goes up $1.46 to $49.95. Now this is being played right now in Modern Smallpox and other decks there. See some legacy play too. But the reason this card got hot recently is because of Throne of Eldraine and Fairies again. Now the other copies of Bitter Blossom have been hot over the last few weeks. This one is catching up now. Animar Soul of Elements. Commander goes up $1.24 to $17.48. Masters 25 up $1.67 to $17.62. Here's another card that has been hot because of something recent, but is also remaining hot because of something that's coming. Omnith Locus of the Royal pushed this card a little bit, but now the Faceless Menace deck is pushing it further because that is a Morph deck and this card does play well with Morph. This also has protection from black, so I kind of wonder if some people are also thinking that's a nice bonus against Carrick. Overburden from Prophecy. This was a rare. It has yet to be reprinted. It goes up $1.77 to $9.49. Now this is going up because people are picking up copies to play with Chulane Teller of Tales. There's a lot of cards people are picking up because of that preview. However, some of these older cards that are hard to find, they dry up quickly, and that's why you see these fast price spikes. Here's another older card that's hot. Dream Chisel from Onslaught goes up $3.08 to $8.95. And of course, this is moving because of that Faceless Menace deck, the Morph deck. Windfall from the Battle Royale box set goes up $3.43 to $9. I mentioned this card last week too. It was spiking then. Basically, Windfall is a cool card. A lot of Commander players will use it and be happy with it. But the reason this particular copy is moving is because the Battle Royale copy is harder to find. It just dried up in the marketplace. Isadore Reality Sculptor goes up $6.85 this week to $14.89. I kind of thought they'd reprint this in the Faceless Menace Morph deck, but they didn't, and it spikes again this week. Renewing Touch. Portal Second Age goes up $1.60 to $5. Starter $19.99 up $7.55 to $10. This one's just a buyout. What happened was the Starter $19.99 one just disappeared out of the marketplace. Maybe it was a targeted buyout. Maybe all the reasonable price copies just happened to run out. Whatever it was, that one spiked first, and then Portal Second Age started to go up when people saw the Starter $19.99 spike. You will see some retraction in the coming weeks around this card, but these are getting harder and harder to find, like I said, in good condition. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to go back down to where they started. Time for the Pauper Spotlight. Pauper is very popular right now. Recently, there's been some changes to the format, introducing some new cards. Also, a lot of the big Pauper cards happen to be good in other formats, so let's see what's going on. Priest of Titania, this is the one from Commander Anthology. It goes up 13 cents to $5. You'll find this in Elf decks. Expedition Maps, Zendikar goes up 13 cents to $4.99. Modern Masters 2015 goes up 13 cents to $5.13. This is in Paupertron builds, but it's also in Modern Tron builds. Probably the real reason it's going up this week. Also, this sees play in Depths builds and Legacy. Ash Barons, this one's interesting. Commander 2016 goes up 10 cents to $3.29. Commander Anthology Volume 2 goes up 18 cents to $3.55. The Masters 25 copy is softening up a little bit this week. Now, of course, this is a Pauper staple, but we found out that all 4 Commander 2019 decks will have a copy of this. There's a lot of copies incoming, so I would expect these prices to soften up soon. Scred makes the list again, going up 17 cents to $3.96. This sees a little Modern play, but it has been seeing a lot of Pauper play in Control builds. Okiba Gang Shinobi, this is the one from Plane Chase 2012. It goes up 20 cents to $3.36. All the copies of this card have been hot recently. This sees play in Snow Mardu Monarch and Pestilence builds. Spell Stutter Sprites. Okay, this one goes up 21 cents to $2.30. This is the one for Modern Masters. Now, this does see Pauper play in Delver builds, Control builds, also a little Modern and Legacy play, but I do think the real reason this is moving again is because of Throne of Eldraine. Bojuka Bog, 2 copies to talk about today. Commander Anthology up 13 cents to $3.48. Commander 2018 up 18 cents to $3.42. So, much like Ash Barons, this card is about to be reprinted too. Now, it's only in one of the Commander 2019 decks, though. It's going to be in the Faceless Menace deck. But with all those extra copies out there, I would expect it to soften up a little bit. It does see a ton of play, though. Pauper, Snow Mardu Monarch, Mono Black Control, and more. Modern Amulet Titan and other decks play it there. Legacy, this is in Lands and Depths builds, but sometimes sees play in Hogak builds there too. Arkham's Astrolabe, this goes up 27 cents to 84 cents. This is a new card for Modern Horizons, and it is becoming a Pauper staple quickly. You'll find this in Snow Mardu Monarch, Jeskai Control, Tron, and more. Modern, this is in a popular deck right now, or is a Thopter Sword. That's probably the main reason it's going up. This is also in Rainbow Nib Mizzet there. Sees a little Legacy play too, sometimes in 4-color Leovold. Time for the Premium Spotlight, and I'll give my disclaimer quickly. I know I say this every week, but it's important. I don't like to talk about foil cards or promo cards too often because a lot of times online pricing is very misleading. They can be easily manipulated because you don't have a lot of copies out there, or sometimes just because of the lack of data points, you just really can't tell what's happening with the card. However, I like to pick 1 or 2 cards every week that are actually moving with the market. This week I chose one. It is Dream Chisel. This is the foil version from Onslaught. Like I said before, this is increasing because of the Faceless Menace Morph deck, but it is going up $7.21 this week to $29.99. Alright, with that being said, that is the Market Watch for today. So continue to keep a close eye on the market when it comes to cards that are going to go into these Commander 2019 decks as upgrades. If it's anything like the last couple of years, we'll be talking about upgrade cards and their prices going into the fall and even the winter. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon and have a great day.